Hello friends, welcome back. In my last video, I have built an endless scrolling platformer background showing the parallax effect using Pygame and object-oriented programming concept. And in this video, I'll be showing you how to render a sprite sheet on top of it. I'll show the animation of a sprite sheet, also how to control the movements, and I'll also paste the link from my last video in the video description for this so that you can follow. So let's begin. And before beginning, I'll show you the output from this tutorial. So this is the background which we built in the last video, and this is the enemy object. This is actually a sprite taken from a sprite sheet, and I've done all those animation using Pygame and object-oriented programming. And also I have controlled the movement. I'll show it to you how to do all those things. So let's begin. So I have already imported the necessary modules, the Pygame, NumPy, and the data class. The data class is a decorator which will be helping us with the initialization method, which I have already showed it to you in the last video. So I'll be creating a class, let's say the enemy class. And the things which would be needed is the path. The path is actually a string, which is this is the sprite sheet, okay, and this is stored in my local computer. The next thing which we would need is the width. I'll tell you what it means. The height. Okay, so if you see in the sprite sheet, and if I draw a box on this image, so this will be the width and height of the sprites, individual sprites, which we would need. Okay, so I'll show it to you how to do that. And if you see my mouse pointer, it is like the width of the entire image, which is 1596 cross 188 pixel. So if we divide 1596 by 6, because there are 6 frames in it, this is roughly 266 cross 188. So this has 6 frames. So let's move back to this class. I would need something like the screen width, which is the game window, also the screen height. Next, I would need the speed x, which is the movement in the x direction, the speed y, which is the movement in the y direction, and also, I would need the image, which is a Pygame image type, and I would not like to initialize it while creating the object. This would be handled in the post-init method. So I'll define other attributes when I would need it. Let's start with the post-init method. This method will get called automatically when you create an object. So I'll define the self.image as using the Pygame image loading module, and I'll provide the path. And also remember to use the convert alpha. It is used for controlling the opacity of the image, and it gives us some amount of optimization. Okay, next thing which we would need is the start x. That is the starting position on which we are going to render our image or the sprite. And this is also field will be like init equal to false. We don't need its initialization. I would also need the start y, which is the x and y coordinate as in, and the field will be also false. So I'll have to define this in the post init method. I'll just reduce or minimize this. The self.startX will be something like self.screen width, because I have already shown it to you, like it is moving from right towards the left. So if we have to begin, we'll have to begin at the full width of this window. So it will begin from the right towards the left. Okay. Next thing is self.startY, and this y will be like a random number from, let's say, 0 till the screen height, and I will subtract the height of the object so that I don't want the image to go below the window. Like if we run this and we see, if we account for the height of that object, we don't want the object to get instantiated below this window. Okay, so I have subtracted that. Next, we would need an update method, and as of now we don't need other attributes. I'll be defining them once I would need them. So in this update method, what we are going to do is going to change this start x, which is the location of that current sprite, by, let's say, self.speedx. And we will also check that if the start x plus the width of that sprite is less than 0, then what we are going to do is, like, we are going to reset this start x position to self.screenWidth. Next thing we would need is the draw method, and in the draw method we would need the screen, which is the Pygame screen where we are rendering all our objects, and we would use the blit method from the screen, which is used for rendering the image. We need to render this self.image and the location where we need to blit it, so self.startx and self.startY. So if you go into this main file, we have already created this one. Like, this is the path for the Raven object, and this is the path of another sprite sheet which I have showed it to you. This one it is. So I would define something like, let's say, enemy, and also I will have to import this from the sprite practice sheet, import, say, enemy, and I will instantiate it over here, the enemy object. If would need something like the path, so I would give it the path which I have already defined. The width was 266, and the height was, I think I've already calculated those things, 188. So the height is 188. What are the things we need? Width, height, screen width, screen height, speed x and speed y. So we would need the screen width, which is the game windows width, and the screen height. Also randomly I am assigning something like 4 as the speed x and 2 or 1 as speed y, although I haven't used speed y as of now. So, and in this infinite loop we would need to call the enemy.update and enemy.draw. Also we would need to provide the screen argument. That's it. So let's run this file. So we can see the entire sprite sheet is getting rendered, but we don't want this. We want the animation effect. And what will happen, that this entire image will get resetted when this left one will cross the, when the left image will cross the window. So it gets resetted because I have written the logic in that way. Okay, so we don't need the entire image. We need to only crop a certain portion. Like, we need to crop, let's say, this portion, and then this portion, then this portion, again this, on top of this, and all others, so that we can get the animation effect. So let's see how we can do that. So back to the sprite practice, I would need something like the frame x variable, which would be initialized with 0, and let's say frame y. Okay, we would not need the frame y in this case because there is only a single row of images. We would need it when there are multiple rows of images, so I would not use frame y as of now. Now we would also need the max frame. I will have to initialize it before this one, max frame. Okay, so in the blit method we have something like to crop a particular set of image, and to crop a particular set of image we would need to provide the, let's say, this left coordinate like x and y position of this left corner and the width and height of this image or the area we would like to crop. So that would be like x and y, the starting coordinates, and the width and height of the area which we want to crop. So what we would provide as an argument is we would need to define it in this way: self.frame x into self.width. So as of now the frame x is 0, so 0 into width will be 0, and the next thing will be 0 because the y coordinate will always be the top portion, that is always 0. And then we would need self.width and self.height because we would need to crop only this specific area, that is 266 cross 188 all the time. So let's see what happens now. If we run it, we would get a single image. Okay, I haven't specified the positional argument over here. So I have defined something like the max frame, which is after speed y. So this is the speed y and the max frame is something like 6. So now run it. So this is the single set of image which is rendered all the time, but we are not getting to see the animation effect. So let's code it. Okay, now it is perfectly in size, like only a single cropped area is visible to us. So to do the animation, what we need to do is change this frame x all the time. And to change this frame x, we will do it in this update method. We would increase it by 1 every time this update method is called. And also keep a check, like if self.framex is greater than equal to self.maxFrame, means like number of frames are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the last one is the 6th frame. So if the frame x is greater than the max frame, that is 6, then reset it back to 0 so as to continue the animation. So let's see. Yes, we can see that the object is getting animated, but yes, it's way too faster. We'll have to control the speed. So how we are going to do this? Let me show it to you. It is, I'll have to define one more variable. I'll define it after the frame x, the timer. Let's say the timer is something like integer type, and I specified it 0, and the max timer. This is integer type, and let's say this is 15. Now, in this update method, I would just increase the timer by 1 all the time, and I would delete this line, and I will have to check if the self.timer is greater than self.maxTimer, then increase the frame x by 1 and also reset this timer back to 0. So what will happen, like when the timer will be moving on to, let's say 0 to 15, so at that time 1 frame will change. So let's see, have we controlled the animation speed? Yes, we have controlled, but it is like a bit slower now. So just decrease this value to, let's say 3 as of now. We'll have to check this, and yes, this is perfect. I think 3 to 5 will be perfect. For the timer, it is looking like the object is, like the enemy is moving towards or flying towards the left all the time. So we would like to give it a movement on the y-axis also. So let's do it in the update method, and there is the start y, which we would need to control the y movement. So let's say self.start y plus or equal to with the self.speed y. Now what will happen, like the y coordinate of the image will change, but it can happen that it will move out of the screen from the top or the bottom. So we'll have to keep a check on that also. So how we are going to do that is, let's say if the self.start y plus the self.height is less than 0. If it is less than 0, means it is moving from the top, moving out from the top. Okay, so keep a check on there. Or it can move from the bottom portion of the window also. So if the self.start y plus self.height is greater than self.screen height, then we need to reverse the direction of the speed y. so that if it is moving towards the bottom and this condition is satisfied, so reverse the direction, just multiply it with -1. This will do the job. If you see, let's see what happens. This is moving to the top now. Once it will reach the top portion, it's still traveling towards the top, but the entire image is going out of the screen. I would not like that. So it will move towards the bottom now. Let's see it happens in the bottom also. Okay, so what we need to do is like, we divide it by 2 so that we want it only moving halfway above the top of the screen and let's say halfway towards the bottom. Then change the direction. So now it will move halfway towards the bottom, yes, and now it's moving up again. And same thing will happen when it is moving from towards the top, halfway towards the top, and it's moving down. Yes, wonderful. So this is done. Now I would like to create multiple instances of the same class. I would create multiple objects. So how we are going to do that? Let's say I'll create an enemy list array, since it's an array, and I would comment off this line as of now. I would not use this one either. And let's say I would define a for loop. I would do like 3 enemies as of now. And let's say I would need something. I would also define the speed x for individual instances. It would be something like np.random.rand int. It would take anything between, let's say, 2 to 8. And the speed y, let's say np.random.rand int from 1 to 4. And now we are going to append them to this list. So we would need something like the path, the width of the image, like the sprite which we want to crop, the screen width, the screen height, and of course the speed x, which is now random for all the objects which are getting created. I don't want all of them to move with the same speed in the x and y direction. That will be overlapping on top of each other, and the max frame will be same for all of them. So that's it. And now we'll have to again write a loop, like for enemy in enemy list, just call the enemy.update and enemy.draw. So that will do. Now let's run this. So yes, multiple instances are getting created from the same class, and they are moving randomly from right towards the left. But what I don't like is like they are of same size. I don't want this. All the enemies are of same sizes. I don't want it. I want to modify it. It's looking odd. Okay, so all of them are moving with different speed and moving up and down at different speed because of that random variable, but I want them of different shapes and sizes. Okay, so how we are going to do that? So let me show it to you. I would define one more variable. Let's say the size modifier, and let's say it is a float type variable. Okay, and in the post-init method, we are going to change this self.image. We are going to modify this image as a whole. There are other methods to do it. If you know something better than this, please comment. I would also like to learn them. But like right now, what I'm doing is scaling this image by this size modifier, and this method will take the image to scale and also how much to scale it. So I would like to get the image width, and multiply it with self.size modifier, and similarly I would get the image height and multiply it with the size modifier. So this will do the job. The image as a whole has got modified to something like the size modifier. It would be something like 20%, 30% of the original image. And we would also have to change this width and height because the size of the image has got reduced. So this width and height would not remain to 266 and 188, which was previously. So we would just modify this width with the size modifier and also the height with the size modifier. So that's it. Oh, I think I mistyped it. Yes, that's it. So okay, now I'll have to define another variable because I want all of them to have different sizes. So I would like to define the size modifier in this way. Let's say the np.random.random and multiply this with, let's say, 0.6. I want it to take values from 0.4 to 1. So I have multiplied this with 0.6 and added 0.4 over here. So if this is 0, the minimum size will be 0.4 or 40%. And if it is like 0.6, then the minimum size will be like, I want it to move from 0.4 to 1. Okay. And also I'll do the rounding of this. Let's say round off to 2 decimal places. And okay, there we need to specify another attribute, size modifier. And this size modifier will be different for different objects getting instantiated in this for loop because each time this is getting changed. So let's start. Now there it is. We are getting all of them of different shapes and sizes. So one is very big, one is small, another is medium size. And it is looking nice, like all the enemies are of different shapes and size. Okay, so this is looking a little bit realistic. And now let us change the sprite sheet. I would change the sprite sheet to something like path raven, where I have the raven object. The raven looks like this. And I just need to change this path, like path raven. Okay, and I need to modify the width and height of this raven because I have already calculated it from beginning. So this is something like 271 cross 194. So this is 271 and 194. So let's see, and I'll also modify this to, let's say, 0.5 and 0.5. Let's see what happens. I'll run it. Yes, this is the output. Like we have got the objects, multiple enemies getting spawned at the same time, and it is moving from right to the left, which was the output which I have shown it to you earlier. And let us introduce that music into it, which we have defined earlier. So this is the mixture module, which is from the Pygame. I am initializing it at the beginning and loading the path like this, mixture.music.load, and this is the mp3 file. Now I need another 2 variable, like let's say the sound time. Let's say this is 0 and max sound time, and let's say this is equal to 100. Now in the update method, I'm going to change the self.sound time by 1, and let's say I would write it at the bottom. If self.soundTime is greater than equal to self.max sound time, then just play the mixture like this, mixture.music.play, and reset this self.soundTime to 0. So what I tried to do is, like, if the self.soundTime is equal to 100, after 100 units, play this music. So it would look random to us. Let's see. So here it is. So if you like this video, I would just pause this statement as of now. So if you like this video, please comment, and also do like it. and subscribe to my channel. I would come up with more videos of this type so as to complete this game tutorial. And thank you.